Hey, how's it going everyone? This is the Spegmeister, and welcome to part 9 of my Halo Anniversary Legendary walkthrough.
Network is absolute chaos. From what I've been able to piece together, their leadership ordered all ships to abandon Halo when they found the flood, but they were too late. The flood overwhelmed this cruiser and disabled it. The Covenant are terrified the flood will repair the ship and use it to escape from Halo. They've sent in a strike team to neutralize the flood and repair the ship for immediate departure. I've got a good lock on Captain Key's CNI transponder signal. He's alive, and the implants are intact. There's some interference from the cruiser's damaged reactor. I'll bring us in as close as I can. Oh, I see. The coordinate data needs to be... Right. Sorry. Captain? Captain? I've lost him.
When you get to this T intersection, if you go to the left, you'll find an active camo sitting by a stockpile of plasma grenades. Up here, if you let the grunts fight out against the combat forms, usually the Flood will win this battle more often than not on Legendary. Occasionally the grunts can beat these guys, but only if they use their grenades.
Analyzing damage. This hole was caused by some kind of explosive. Very powerful if it tore through the ship's hull. All I detect down there are pools of coolant. We should continue our search somewhere else.
So if you choose not to jump down right away and turn back in this hallway, you'll find the Flood will start spying behind you.
Warning, threat level increasing.
In previous playthroughs, I used to think these guys would spawn infinitely until you had no choice but to jump down. But it turns out that these enemies only spawn in a set number. If you've taken any health damage, you can try to get that health kit by crouch jumping. Once you're down here, let the Covenant and the Flood fight it out.
Let's get out of here and find another way back aboard the ship.
Usually the Covenant do a pretty good job taking on the Flood here. They'll usually be able to take out the first two waves, but some cases the Flood can get really lucky if they close their distance. Shockingly, the Covenant weren't able to survive even the first wave. So if you choose to stick around here, there will be 3 different waves of Flood that drop in. Once you finish these guys off, you can use the opportunity to look around for any weapons or ammo. I try to get my hands on a pistol, and then usually a few of these guys will have shotguns on hand. As you get to this fork in the road, go ahead and chuck a plasma grenade up by these 2 combat forms on the balcony. Regardless of whether you stick one or not, as long as it lands on the balcony, it'll take them both out. When you look to your left, try to help the Flood by taking out the Covenant that are sitting in this corner. Once you've cleared the area out pretty well, go ahead and make your way up the slope and chuck a grenade around this corner. If you get far enough into the cannon, you should be able to take out all the combat forms that are sitting in the corner. As you make your way further into this canyon, once you see the carrier forms drop in, go ahead and back up and let them detonate.
We should head this way, towards the ship's gravity lift.
What you'll really want to be careful for against the carrier forms is that they have a tendency to bounce across the canyon walls and land right at your feet. Around this corner there will also be a few combat forms waiting for you, so just take this part rather slow. Once you're far enough over to this ammo stash, all these infection forms will despawn. Go ahead and drop the shotgun for the sniper and take out these hunters.
Coolant leakage rate is significant. The ship's reactor should already have gone critical.
Once the hunters are down, then you can focus on taking out the Covenant on the other side. Also keep a good eye on this bridge. Some combat forms will drop down and try to shoot down on the Covenant. Once it looks pretty clear, go ahead and ditch the pistol for the shotgun. Check to see if there's anyone on the bridge before you jump down. And then you can clear out these carrier forms that are remaining. And if you happen to need a health kit, there's one by this small coolant pool. Once you get around this corner, go ahead and snipe the elite off the turret and quickly mop up the grunts and then hop on the turret yourself. And for this, you'll just want to hold off against the flood using this turret primarily. Once it seems fairly quiet, go ahead and approach this corner, and if there's any useful weapons you can try to pick one up. Otherwise you just want to try to trigger these enemies to spawn in and chase after you. You can try to chuck a grenade and land it at the corner just to slow their advance a little bit. You may have to do this a couple of times just to finish off the remaining reinforcements. Once you get to this arch, there will be 3 combat forms that'll jump up from below. Once you drop down, all the infection forms will despawn. Try to get the Flood's attention when you get to this part, and just try to hold your ground at this corner against the combat forms. There'll be a few up on this ledge that kind of wraps around this area. So once you take out the enemies down low, you can focus on these guys. They're not too bad to deal with if you have some grenades or a pistol. Now if you turn back here and go into this corner, you'll find the carrier forms spawn in this coolant pool. One grenade will wipe most of them out.
The gravity lift. It's still operational. That's our way back in.
Now for this part, you can let the Covenant try to fight out against the Flood for as long as they can. Otherwise, if you want to try to speed things up a little bit, you can try to take out the Covenant first and then turn your attention to the Flood. Either way, I would try to hang out towards the entrance to this area and let the Flood come to you if they happen to kill off all the remaining Covenant. This corner works really well too if you happen to be low on shotgun ammo and you're just trying to conserve it for later on. Also, be very aware of any grenades that these enemies drop because it's very easy to get killed by chain reactions in this mission. When the area is clear, once you make your way up on this elevated piece of land, you'll trigger one final wave of floods to spawn in around you. Once you do that, just come back to where you were and hold your ground. Usually you'll find this health kit up on this piece of land, but if you happen to throw a grenade up there or if a carrier form detonates itself, it can go flying off somewhere else. So just be really careful if that ever happens and you're low on health, that you may or may not find that health kit. When the area is clear for the last time, then go ahead and go over to that dead elite and you can pick up the overshield. And what's really nice about doing this is you can go inside the ship with a bit of a shield boost for some of the next engagements.
We should be able to get into the ship's control room from here. The Covenant BattleNet is a mess. I can't access the ship's schematics. My records indicate that a shuttle bay should be here.
In this hallway you'll have 4 carrier forms. A couple of them will jump down, one each in these, or just one of them will drop down in each of these holes, one in front and one behind you. On this balcony, or usually in this hallway, right just as you're leaving the balcony, you'll have a couple of combat forms. Sometimes one of those guys will have a shotgun on hand. Now this is a point where you can just try to skip all these enemies, but these guys will just spawn in a set number. It's quite a few flood. Decent number of combat forms and a few carrier forms will come out of this. And I'm trying to use this opportunity to try to get some more ammo before I proceed, especially for the shotgun. But the way you want to do this is to throw a grenade every so often just to clear out any grenades dropped by these forces. Usually I find the easiest way to die on this mission is from setting off a chain reaction, whether you do it by throwing a grenade or killing one of these carrier forms, or if a carrier form tips over. Either way, it's pretty painful and rather unfortunate. Once you make your way further down the hallway, after holding your ground against those guys, you'll just have some carrier forms as well as a few combat forms. Or typically it might be one or two, depending on how many you kill from up top. Once you get to the center of the room, go ahead and look towards this doorway. Try to get a grenade out there to kill off some of the combat forms and carrier forms. And then you can just swap to your pistol and use it to finish off the remaining enemies. Once you get down here into this next hallway, go ahead and try to chuck one or two grenades around the corner. And you can try to hold your ground against the flood from up here in the room. Once again, just be very cautious if you use frag grenades or plasma grenades for these guys. If you accidentally stick one of the combat forms, it's best to try to shoot them and get them to stop moving and then just keep backing away. Now, before you jump down this hole, there's going to be a couple things I do. The first I'm going to do is kill these carrier forms down low. There will be 3 of these guys. The first 2 you should be able to see rather easily. The third one you may just have to shoot occasionally just to get its attention. After those guys are down, then go ahead and make your way back into this large room. And off in this corner, you'll find an overshield as well as a couple of health kits. When you get to this corner, just try to wait here patiently and allow the Flood and Covenant to fight it out. You can try to help out a little bit by trying to take out these carrier forms. Once the Flood are all dead, then go ahead and go into this next hallway, or at least approach the corner and try to kill the Covenant. You can try to use your plasma grenades here to stick the elites or grunts, and you should be able to get a decent number of group kills. And that's especially true if you land your grenades down in this corner. Once you get past this hole in the ceiling, you'll have a bunch of Flood drop in. And unlike the last holding point that I was at, none of these enemies are going to have a shotgun. But I would recommend using the shotgun and the occasional grenade to try to clear these guys out. If you start taking a little bit too much damage, you can try to retreat in this hallway and wait for your shields to fully charge. Fortunately, this set of doors will close behind you. You'll also notice that the Flood will also spawn down a secondary hallway, so be careful of those guys as well. They'll be up in this part of the hallway, which we didn't have access to previously. So yeah, as you can see, this door was previously locked, and now it's open. And just like in the other engagements, use the opportunity to look around for any ammo or grenades.
Looks like another shuttle bay. We should be able to reach the control room from the 3rd level.
I gave you an order, soldier. Now pull out!
He's delirious! In pain, we have to find him!
So once you come into this shuttle bay, go ahead and jump down to the lower level and come through the set of doors that I entered through. What you want to do is take the opportunity to first clear out this hallway of Covenant and Flood. And along the way, be sure to pick up some of the plasma weapons that the Covenant drop. You don't necessarily have to pick up the plasma rifle, but I would try to save the plasma pistols. As you make your way further up, go ahead and let the Covenant fight against the Flood once more. Usually the Covenant will win this battle out too. There's also one hunter waiting around this corner, so try to get his attention. And just like in the other missions, just wait for him to lift his shield before you take the shot. There'll also be a few grunts waiting in this corner if the Flood haven't taken care of them already. Now what I do here is I pick up a plasma pistol and I'm going to carry both the shotgun and the human pistol with me. There will be a few elites on the center platform, so I'm going to try to use the opportunity to stick one of them and then try to combo the rest. If the first grenade didn't do a whole lot to kill off the elites, you can try to chuck another one and see if you have better luck. If you happen to have one elite left, usually he ends up jumping on the turret, so that makes things a little bit easier for me. So instead of having to resort to the plasma pistol, I can just try to approach him and put a couple rounds with the shotgun into him. Up here, go ahead and try to chuck a grenade further down the hallway and see if you can wipe out most of the Flood there at the other end. And just like before, just continue to pick up any plasma pistols if you can find them. You don't have to get every single weapon, but it definitely doesn't hurt to pick up a few. As for these grunts, you can try to kill them yourself, otherwise you can let them do as much damage as they can to the Flood. In this next hallway, go ahead and chuck one grenade about halfway up and let the combat forms fight their way to you. There's also a health kit in that corner if you need it. Otherwise, you can try to save it for the last part of the mission. Once you get to this door where the waypoint is, go ahead and chuck a couple of grenades and see if you can deal a decent amount of damage to the Flood here. If they start charging, you can just keep chucking grenades a little ways in front and let them charge you. Just find a good corner and use the shotgun. After you move up far enough forward, then a few more Flood will spawn in. Once again, just use a corner or a crate to hold off against the horde. And unfortunately, at this point, I'm getting dangerously low on the shotgun. So I'll need to find another one fairly soon, otherwise I'm gonna have to really get creative. This isn't entirely necessary, but if you want to, you can try to take out the elite on this turret. And the plasma pistol will do quite nicely.
Captain, his vitals are fading. Please, Chief, hurry.
Once you get past this checkpoint, go ahead and let the Covenant fight against the Flood once more. If it seems like there's really not much happening, just try open fire. Get either the Covenant or the Flood to move forward, and then you can just try to fall back a little ways. Now, since I'm fairly low on the shotgun, I'm going to just try to get the Flood's attention and just back up as far as I need to, using the pistol against most of these guys. This can work really well to your advantage if you need to kill any carrier forms at this point. And as long as you don't open fire, you can just try to use your grenades to kill the Flood that are by the door. So you can see I'm just trying to aim for that corner and see if I can kill off a decent number with each of these grenades. Of course, I definitely don't want to use up all my grenades, so I'll resort to the pistol for at least a few of these enemies. I think one of these combat forms did have a shotgun on hand, so I'm gonna look around for that. At this point in the mission, you don't need too much ammo for the shotgun, but you'll probably want at least 12 rounds for when you enter this room. And especially for the combat that happens after the cutscene.
No human life signs detected. The captain, he's one of them. We can't let the Flood get off this ring. You know what he'd expect. What he'd want us to do. It's done. I have the code. We should go. We need to get back to the Pillar of Autumn. Let's go back to the shuttle bay and find a ride.
Now, once you come out of the cutscene, go to that door right away and trigger the Covenant to spawn in. Once you do that, then you'll also have the Flood spawning in through these two doors on the far side. When all that happens, just come to the back of this room and hide behind one of these pillars. this engagement, the Flood will usually win this. So I would make sure to have your weapons fully loaded, have your frag grenades out, and be ready to target these guys once it seems like it's died down quite a bit. Fortunately, I had a couple of carrier forms alive, so that helped clear the room of any remaining combat forms. Seems like the Covenant did a near thorough job. They almost killed each other off completely. So yeah, if something also to keep in mind, there's also a health kit here if you needed it from any of the previous engagements. At this point, I would pick it up if you need it. Otherwise, you don't really need to come back to this area for the health kits. There's also one in that corner too. Now this is where the mission gets fairly interesting. From this point forward, after these Flood are dead, we're going to be left with a bunch of Covenant, which is consisted of these Spec Ops units. These are the toughest of the toughest when it comes to the enemies in this game. It's also worth noting that these are the only elites in the campaign that'll throw grenades. And these guys are very good at it, so just keep a good eye on them. And be ready to move around a corner or behind cover if you see a grenade sail your way. I find, at least for this engagement, the Needler works pretty well at taking out these elites, especially if you don't have a plasma pistol on hand right away. I got pretty lucky I didn't see that grunt hiding behind the corner there. There'll be a couple of grunts with fuel rod cannons, so keep a good eye out for them. If you happen to catch the elite in its grenade throwing stance, that's a really good time to either throw a grenade or try to plasma combo the elite, or even use the Needler. Now there is a shortcut for finishing this mission. You can just do what I did on Truth and Reconciliation, which is jump down one platform at a time to get to a Banshee.
Perfect. Grab one of the escort banshees and we'll use it to return to the Pillar of Honor.
Now the alternative method, which is quite a bit more challenging, is to just fight out against all these enemies, going through these hallways slowly. And this is where your grenades are going to be really useful, so make really good use of them. This is also why I saved all these plasma pistols earlier. And I knew that grunt had fuel rod cannon because I saw a shot. Just be very careful working through these halls as you're clearing out all these grunts and elites. This can be a fairly challenging point. Up ahead to through the door on the right where we came from earlier, you'll find a bunch of elites will just enter through onto this balcony from there. For these enemies, I would definitely keep back as far as you need to. If you get close enough, they will try to stick you with a grenade, or at least kill you with one. Even if you're out of range of these elites, when you're using the overcharged plasma bolt, the shot will still track these guys. If you come back into this hallway, you will trigger checkpoint, so I would try not to trigger it right away if you have quite a few elites left on this level. Also be sure to keep a good eye on the spirit dropship, because that will try to shoot up at you on occasion if you get out in the open too far. Once the final Leah is down, then you can try to move forward a little bit on this area. Keep a good eye out for any enemies that are down on the ground level. You'll have a decent number of elites as well as some grunts. If they haven't spotted you, you can try to chuck a grenade or two down there and see if you can get lucky. And I managed to catch two off guard, which is really nice. These guys too will also try to stick you with a grenade, so keeping a good eye out for them. If you also need it, I saved the health kit from earlier, which was just around this corner from where we exited the halls. So if you're pretty low on health, just that's also another location to keep in mind. I know I have some more plasma pistols, but I figure since I have the plasma rifles available, that works just as well for taking down their shields from a distance. Now with that enemy down in the shuttle bay, I'm gonna go ahead and make my way through these halls and get down to the ground level. Once you get down here though, keep a good eye out for enemies that are spying behind you through this door. You'll have a few grunts, a couple of them with fuel rod cannons. So you can just try to either take them out really quick or just make your way to the opposite side and kill them here. And since I'm near the spear, I'm just trying to use these pillars to the best of my ability to at least take cover from its gun. There's also a couple of elites that spawned in as soon as I came down here, so They'll stay on that half of the room, so this side is relatively safe. However, since I find this gun to be rather annoying, what I'm going to do instead is approach this door. There's going to be some more reinforcements in this hallway. I'm just going to use my grenades to clear out the best that I can. There'll be a handful of grunts as well as a couple of elites. So if you use your plasma grenades for these guys, that'll be really helpful. Also, by killing those enemies, you have a relatively safe area to take cover from the remaining reinforcements. And there happens to be just one more elite, and he's on the second floor. And he'll just hang out up there, and for the time being anyway. Not too difficult to take him out from a distance if you want to do it that way. And once he's dead, then you can go ahead and jump in the Banshee, and that will be it for this mission. So there we go. I got this mission in a little over 45 minutes. Kind of a longer mission if you choose to take on the enemies in the final stretch, but it's actually not too long of a mission if you choose to skip it. But anyway, hopefully you guys found this guide to be really helpful. The really tricky parts about this level is just trying to use your grenades and explosives wisely, because in these hallways it's rather easy to kill yourself with, again, using your grenades or setting off a chain reaction. So that's really the main thing to keep in mind as you're going through this level. So thank you for joining in on this episode. I really appreciate the support, and hopefully I will see you on the finale episode of my Halo anniversary walkthrough.